Hey, I'm Mitchell Davis, a Laravel developer.
G'day, Mitchell. I'm Gavin, sales and marketing, the other co-founder of SixSides, and welcome to our B2B SaaS journey.
Excellent. Okay, new intro today. I like it. How you going?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We'll get into how I'm going in a minute, but first, a couple shout outs. So we've been looking at all the numbers, all the metrics. We've got all the analytics in Transistor, and we want to give a shout out to some of our regular listeners in Taiwan, Missouri in the US, the Netherlands, Portugal, Macedonia, and Spain. So that's a pretty good global reach for two idiots out of Australia, right? So
Yep.
it's not bad.
Yeah, we're starting to get our name out there a little bit. It's a slow burn run. So
It is. But it's fun though. It's a fun slow burn. So we appreciate you being along for the journey.
Yep.
Then
Yep.
also, I'd like to give a shout out to Michael Drinder from Laracon Australia for two things. He gave me some feedback on using Expo. So clearly he's been listening, which is great. And then he also, off the back of last week's episode where we sent a Slack Connect invite to the guys over at Laravel Live Denmark, who are one of our first customers, he just before we started the recording sent me a Slack Connect invite into his own Slack instance. So that's cool. He's clearly still listening. Gavin missed out though.
I haven't got one. Yep.
Well, maybe Michael could send you one after this episode comes out. I won't say anything. How about that? Let's see if you end up getting an invite.
Come on, Michael. Yep. There's Mitch is a co-founder, not the founder.
That's right. Well, he's kind of got the inside track. He was there all along, right? So maybe it's on purpose.
And I was speaking to Hirali, if anyone's listened back, I think episode 3, right at the beginning.
Yeah,
very
days.
very far back. He was saying he listens to it every week as well, and he is trying to be consistent in his follow up and tenacious with sales. He's like, I just listened to what Mitch says. Apparently, you're pretty good. I don't agree with that, but he said,
don't agree with that?
That
What
I'm
are you
pretty
talking
good.
about?
I'm just a normal salesperson.
Please.
Yeah, and so he is. He's been listening to and applying some of what we've been saying, right? And he's given me some feedback on some stuff today too, which we might, if it comes up, we'll talk about it later on. So yeah. Cool. So shout out to Rolly as well.
Shout out to Rolly. Excellent. So Gav, have you got any sales updates, progress updates for us?
Yeah, I do actually. So last week we briefly spoke about the change in strategy. Instead of trying to sell, go and make an observation at an event and then make a recommendation. So I've actually implemented that on, I think I had 3 meetings last week. Every one of them are very receptive to it. I'm actually going to a conference here in September, massive conference. This will be a step change to what we are used to. And they like the core functionality of what we're doing and the mission and everything that we're doing, but they don't quite know how to apply to them. So I'm going to go down there. I'm going to create a checklist. So I'm going to interview some sponsors. I'm going to interview, some speakers. I'm going to aim to interview them more, make some observations, and then recommend how we could help them and what outcomes they could expect. And they were really receptive to it. You would have seen an email not long ago, possibly, about one of the biggest events in Australia that's been running for a long period of time. Is they're interested in picking up the conversation in August. And, some of these things are flagship events that are well known in Australia. Yeah, this is big deal stuff. So, it feels like the universe. I'm always looking out for signs when it comes to sales, especially B2B enterprise sales or high, like big ticket sales, because a sale doesn't just happen in that instance, but what you will get is feedback from the market that's an indicator of you're on the right track. Like you will get signals that it is the right thing. And since we started doing this, since that proposal, just even with all these meetings, everyone said yes to that. And it's like, okay, hang on a sec, there's something here. And be a very difficult strategy to defend against if I was a competitor, if we get this right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. All the indications that I've seen are really strong that we've got something good here. So it's fantastic. Like, so much easier, it seems, than some of the other things that I've tried in the past. So yeah, I'm stoked, and we're getting very close. I will talk more about this in this episode, but we are getting very close to having an actual new version of the app that you can demo and show all of these like new things that we've been kind of planning now for 6 months.
Yep.
So man, bring that on when we finally got that ready, and you can start showing that, and we can kill off all the old infrastructure and everything that we've got. I bring on that as well. So
yeah. And I've been working on something in my other businesses, like this AI B2B coach, sales coach called DealBuddi. So a next step for me this week and next week is to run SixSides through that process to get up and running, because it needs to be configured to a business. And then I'm going to use it as a salesperson, not as a founder, but to approach companies, because by then we would almost be at a point to start demoing it, and we will have the strategy defined, and then I'll start implementing that. So that'll be a big step change in capability as well.
yeah.
Yep.
Hey, bring it on. That's really exciting. So looking forward to seeing that, because I've seen with DealBuddi specifically, I've seen like early things that your developers, early like UI and implementation that your developers were working on. So really keen to actually see it in action. So
And so
we'll have a link to that in the show notes if you're curious. Check it out. DealBuddi with an I at the end.
Yeah, and a .com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Not a
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
No.
So that brings us to, getting this interest. But at the end of the day, you've got to deliver it. You've got to build it, right? So, and you're starting to feel a pinch.
I am feeling the burn. So yes, I
Got it.
have been working really, really hard to get this over the line, because we have a self-imposed deadline of today, later today, basically, to have the first version of the app up and available in TestFlight, which is Apple's kind of built-in testing program where you can get early access to apps, basically. So we had planned with 2 of our early customers to give them access on this date, which is the 7th of July, to give them access to this early version of the app. And we're on track for that. It's not as far along as in terms of being like fully developed as I would have liked, but I've been working my butt off to try and get this thing done, like spending the last few weekends, aside from some social events and stuff with family and things, like just spending every waking minute that I can to just try and get this done. Plus also during the week as well. So any time that's not allocated to clients or where I'm in meetings, things like that, yeah, spending as much time as I can to try and get the app ready for this deadline.
Yep.
And it's just a really big task. We already had a working app for Laracon Australia last year, right? So I have been able to lift quite a bit of the code base for the new SixSides application out and use that. But there's a lot of like aspects that have changed about the system. If you listen to the last couple of months, you'll hear of this podcast, you'll hear me talking about all the infrastructure changes that we made. All of that stuff has impacts on all the existing code, right? So it's not just the copy and paste over and maybe change some colors and stuff. There's been some pretty significant changes. And so I'm not as far along with it as what I was hoping for. We are still going to deliver today. Well, I mean, we'll at least have it up on TestFlight. It does have to go through a little bit of review by Apple, but hopefully it will be available to these customers today. They'll still be able to go in, see their event, see the theming that we've got set up for them. They can see a full schedule, see speakers, see profiles, see a gallery. There's a bunch of things that are all done.
Yep.
but it's just not exactly where I thought it was. So when you and I were speaking this morning on our kind of regular Monday calls that we'll have together, I was like feeling a bit bummed out that, okay, it's not exactly where I wanted it to be, but also feeling burnt out.
Sure.
That, man, I've really been grinding away at this for
Sure.
like a good month now, and it's starting to get to be a bit much.
Yep. Okay. Can we talk through that a little more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So I guess, well, one, you're going through a learning phase, because when we first started talking, you did say, hey, this is uncharted territory for you, although you have many, many years developing experience. Building something that we want to scale and in this capacity around different geographies, this is all new for you. Like, a lot of it's new for you. Not new for you, but a lot of it's new for you, right?
All the infrastructure, putting servers, databases, whatever overseas, specifically all this usage of Cloudflare, all of that's new to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has been a huge task to learn all of that.
Yep. And so, well, one, first and foremost, I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
I don't know how development works, but I'm getting an insight into that. I've always suspected that it's a way bigger job than you're maybe ready to admit. I don't know if that's the right word, because I know that you've said, oh, it should be pretty straightforward. And I'm like, I don't know development, but I know it is way harder than what you're letting on. And you don't know until you start getting into it, right? And and it's like, well, I'm fucking in it now. I can't get out of it. I've got to keep going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And look, some of that is also trying to, like, if I say, oh, yeah, you know, like this might take a day to do.
Yep.
Some of that is, it's always a bet. There's no like, oh, if someone comes to you and they want this task done, it's going to take you exactly 37 minutes. Like, that's not, life doesn't work like that, right?
Yep.
So it's really hard to know how long something is going to take.
Yep.
But through my experience, I have gotten pretty good at estimating, okay, this is how long it's going to take. Because ultimately, if I get that estimate really wrong, that's really bad for my business, right?
Yeah, sure. You also, my observation is you're a perfectionist. It has to be perfect. I'm not saying it shouldn't be perfect, but I think it feels like you're trying to build out a lot of the functionality while you're going, so you don't have to come back and do it again at a later stage. And maybe you're going too deep on the first pass, if you know what I mean. Like I did, because last week we talked and you showed me this cool emoji thing, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that if we think about your mental state, or anyone's mental state, right? Yours, mine, because I was down a couple of weeks ago, that there's only a certain amount of capacity we have to use before we start draining, and we get into the red, which is where you're approaching the red now. It's like, okay, how do I stay on task and not get distracted by the cool things, and you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. So I talked about this with Nicole, my fiance, and I was like, I told her that I did so set the stage for this emoji thing. I was thinking it might be cool to have a way for people to, while they're sitting there in the crowd at a talk, to quickly like have a shared sense of how's the crowd feeling about this, right? And so I was thinking, okay, wouldn't it be cool to give people like a few options of emojis that they could just kind of like spam? If you've ever seen like a Twitter,
Google Meets do it. Like
Google Meet is cool. So it's like, it's a thing, right? If you're watching a live video or you're on a call or whatever, and you get the option to like spam an emoji or something like that, and it appears on the screen and whatever. So something like that, I thought, okay, that'll be pretty cool. And then I put together just a screenshot. I didn't make it work yet at that point. I put together a screenshot and I sent it over to you of like, hey, this is an idea that I've got. And you're like, oh, okay, like, all right. And then I decided, knowing full well that, okay, I'm putting time and energy into this instead of other stuff, I decided to just build it out. So I then got it working, right? And then like 2 hours later, and it seriously was about 2 hours, and that's it. And it's now a feature of our app. Got it working. right? And then I sent you a video of it and you're like, oh, cool. Okay. Right. That's cool. I was talking about it with Nicole that night and she was like, okay, but you have all this other stuff to work on. And I was like, yes, but I need, the reason I decided to build it out was because I'm bored or like burnt out on building all of the stuff that I already built, 8 months ago or whatever it was. And it's nice to have like a fun little carrot, oh, this is something that I can just go build. It's fun. It's new. It's novel. Learn some new technology with it. And then go back to working on the other stuff. So that is what I have done. And to be clear, that's the only like fun new thing that I've added. And it was dead set 2 hours to build. I know you're not like picking me apart here. I'm just trying to give the right like context of, okay, yes, sure. I did go and build this other thing, but it wasn't like it took me 4 days to do.
Okay. So I think there's an opportunity cost, right? Like of doing something that does take some headspace, but it is what it is. But if you're getting burnt out from doing development work and then you go and do other development work, you're still doing the same mental capacity. It's just changed. Maybe it's like having a break from doing work. Maybe your mental capacity might be better off, or your mental state, mine too, because I've got to get out of the house. I might be better off going to the gym or going for a walk or completely decompressing from it and then coming back. Because I worry that I just don't want you to burn out. You got to be in this for the long haul, right? And yeah.
Look, I know that the burnout that I'm feeling is temporary. I've dealt with this before. Like I had a huge amount of burnout right in the lead up to that talk at Laracon, and I didn't have the opportunity to just like, I can't say, oh, sorry, Michael, I'm just not going to give the talk. Wasn't possible, right? So this happens. I'm instantly though put back in that same place of, wow, okay, this is what it's like when you're overworked. So with all this being said, I'm going on a holiday a week from today when we do the recording, right? So I'm going to Bali, which is just a short flight, a couple hours north of here, which is awesome. Going with Nicole and some friends, which should be great. And I'll be gone for 10 days. So I am thinking I will probably have to do some work to continue to meet, like we have actual real customer deadlines, not just self-imposed ones coming up in August. So things still need to get done. And I was hoping to be further along. I think the consequence of not being there yet is that I probably will have to do some work, but I certainly won't be spending the entire time working.
Sorry.
Yeah. And to be clear, I'm okay with that, but I think it will really help to have like some other stuff to focus on because it is it's getting to be a lot at the moment.
Okay. So last week we had Chris do some work, one of your other employees do some work in the business, and that seemed like we got a shit ton done on that side of the back end, right?
Yeah.
Is there any capacity for us to use him again in the stuff that you're working on now? Like, has he got the ability to do that?
Potentially. He's not as strong suited, and he would be the first to say this, so I'm not throwing him under the bus. He's not as strong suited for front end, which the mobile app is all front end. So he does not feel strong in terms of design and like making decisions on where things should live on a page and stuff like that. He's amazing with dealing with data and the back end side of things. But yeah, the front end isn't his strength. So it's a little tricky. He has certainly worked on plenty of mobile apps that we've done. He's worked on the Laracon Australia app as well. He did some work on that last year. So he knows how to do this stuff, but giving him 2 weeks or however many days, whatever, to go work on the app, it feels like, okay, I will probably have to be pretty heavily involved.
So what about utilizing him again for doing what he was doing more with the dashboards and stuff? Eventually you're going to get to that point you need to pay attention to. So I understand peaks and troughs. We're not going to get out of that. But to try to smooth out in a few, it's not going to help next week. or like, one, ideally don't do any work while you're away, but I understand that you may have to do a couple of hours, and you probably want to get out of the sun because, let's face it, it's not your
Yeah,
best
that's
friend.
right. Yeah. I won't be spending a lot of time at the beach.
You'd be like,
Surprise.
Nicole, I have to go do some work. And you
Yeah.
just really want to get out of the sun.
She knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least trying to smooth out some of that work, like that you're going to have to get to. I'm completely open for it.
Yeah, so the tricky thing with that is that with the phase that we're in now, it's really hard to design the backend APIs in isolation. So you kind of need to know, okay, what does the app need?
Right. Okay.
So that you can then provide it from the backend, right?
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So, because I thought about that as I forget if it was last episode or the week before where we were talking about getting set up with Chris. I think it might have been last week, and we got to that. He did 6 days of work on SixSides for us, and it got to like the end of day 3, I think, and I was like, it's at a point now where the backend is working as expected. Everything is functional. There are little tweaks that need to be made to our APIs so that we are serving the right types of data and things like that. But you wouldn't know those changes that are needed until you're writing the mobile app to then know,
Yeah. Okay.
man, it'd be really great to know, this person's last name here or something like that. So it's tricky. You really have to, at the phase that we're in now, when it's such an early product, you really need to be across both sides. And that's just,
Okay.
I can talk with Chris about it and just see, okay, is there some way that we could help? But my honest thinking is this will have to be me who builds this out for now.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris has made a ton of progress with the dashboard. Maybe we can cover that because we do now have a dashboard. So a web dashboard that our customers can log in, configure their events and do things like that. It's certainly early days on that as well, but that's something that Chris took from start to finish, or start to slightly further than the start. Again, we're not finished, but you can now log in, you can view events, you can view teams, you can look at a list of attendees and speakers and talks and so on. Like we're getting a lot further along with that. And that's using WorkOS as well. So we've still continued down that pathway for anyone that's been following along. Yep. So that's been really good. We're enjoying it all. It's that's been distributed out to Frankfurt, where we're hosting some data there for this Denmark event, and also here in Sydney in AWS. It's all the servers or the Lambda functions are running on AWS, and then they're served by Cloudflare workers. So we've kind of got this hybrid cloud approach, and it's going really well. I'm honestly stoked with our infrastructure and how quick everything is to run, but also to deploy. It's amazing. I'm really liking where that's got to, and Chris got us a new dashboard, basically using one of the Laravel 12 starter kits. So yeah, it's really exciting on that front.
So what do we do about, well, first and foremost, it's great that you've said, hey, I'm starting to feel it, because we don't see each other, right? So in person. Yeah. How do we protect against it? What's the way that that works for you to relieve it?
Well, there's only so many things I can say on the podcast.
Go for
it. No, I think the best way is to not have a huge amount of work that needs to get done before a given deadline ever again, right? Which isn't going to happen. The reason this is happening now is because, okay, we have to go from 0 to 1. We have to go from not having a working new SixSides app to a working SixSides app. And unless something really significant changes in the future, this should be the biggest block of continuous work that needs to happen in the life of this business, right? Okay. Because you're going from effectively nothing to a complete app. So this was expected. And you and I have talked before about the amount of time that we're putting into the business now and things like that. And I told you, like, mate, the time where I earn my keep is now, getting us from this 0 to 1. And then yours can be, you could be working 10% the number of hours that I'm working on this right now. And that's what I would expect. That's totally fine with me, because my time to then go, okay, and I can relax a bit and I can work at a reasonable pace that doesn't bring burnout will come once we run our first event through this, right? I'll then continue working on the app, of course, and we'll add new stuff, and there'll be new features, there'll be bugs, there'll be software development still to do, but it won't be at this crazy pace that it has to be right now. So I was fully expecting this, and I'm glad that I'm going on this holiday, because it will be a chance to get out of the office and go do, go have fun, but I will still have to do a little bit of work while I'm over there, and that's okay. So to avoid it, I don't think, honestly, there's no way to have avoided this. I've worked on this business as much as I can over the last 6 months. It's only been a crazy amount of development time over the last maybe 2 months of that, but that's life. Like, I got other commitments and things. So yeah.
Have we got a product roadmap? We don't have a documented one, do we?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Well, maybe we should do something like that, like at least understanding what we need to do, or what you need to do, and what we need to do. And then we can put in, I was talking to Rolly about it. Sometimes when they get ideas, they put it in there, then they figure out the priority of doing things. Like today I talked about photo filtering and stuff like that, like put filters on photos. Maybe when we're like, like when we're trying to get to a endpoint, which is not an MVP, but a decent app, we can just document some of that stuff to circle back later, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. And
for sure. Like Linear, I mentioned last week, Linear is like a project management tool for development, software development. And we use it on almost all our client projects here at Atlas, and works amazingly for this type of stuff. You can just add things to the backlog and put things in future cycles and stuff. So totally we could do that. I can't tell you how much I look forward to being able to just bite off a feature that's been, in the queue for a couple of months, and then I can turn around to you, and it's something that we both think will be valuable. And then I can surprise you, before you hop on a sales call or whatever, and I say, mate, I've just added this thing that, by the way, it's in your app, and you just open your phone up and it's there, and I've rolled it out, and it took me 4 hours to add this amazing new thing. Like, I can't wait to get there. I was describing to you on our call this morning about the dashboard in its current state. It's kind of like we've just built the canvas, and now we can start to paint on top of it. And I feel like I'm doing that at the moment with the app. So we've got to have all these foundational things, of which we're probably 50, 60% of the way there. I got to finish the rest of it, and then we can start to paint and add all the fun stuff and new features and be innovative and etc. So
okay,
it's a process.
And the complexity comes, I think there's slight complexity that happens here as well. Is we do one feature or one piece of functionality, then we've got to look at the tweaks for all the other sides, and it goes from 1 to 5 or 6, right? And so that's all. And I know doing that over and over again, how frustrating that could be. So I get it. But I think another thing is, as well, is future planning is, let's say some of these clients come off that I'm chasing that will be monthly, hoping to be monthly SaaS, monthly subscription fees. Planning out some help for you in a way that adds value, in a way that's more sustainable, I think can't be a bad thing, because it accelerates. But then you've got other things you've got in other businesses to look at. So one thing I have picked up though is, I thought a developer was a developer. I knew there was back end and front end, but it's like a chef. There's many different types of chefs out there. Like, and most of us who are non-technical go, dev's a dev. It's absolutely not a developer. Like, it's not the same thing. So,
and there's like different, there's whole different flavors of technologies, even for front end and back end. There's like a million different programming languages. I've talked about it before, there's like 20 different ways to build a mobile app. There's like hundreds of ways to build a back end API. There's a lot. And it doesn't overwhelm me at all. I really enjoy it. I like learning new stuff, but at the same time, I don't have my head in the clouds and I want to learn absolutely everything. It's like, I know, probably 10 different technologies or languages or different things, like what I feel very
Yeah.
well and really confident in. And I know that they do a great job, and I built that up over time, like Laravel being one, Expo being another. And it's working. Like, that has continued to serve me really well. I'm not that interested in learning everything else that's out there. But it's also like, it's not just front end and back end developers. There's also like the infrastructure people and DevOps. So running all of your servers and making sure you can deploy stuff. And like, there's so much. The rabbit hole goes so deep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. You've picked up on that.
Yeah, and yes, it's true. And I was just thinking about that then, about stress levels. We're all going to go through peaks and troughs, and that's okay. I don't think being stressed for 12 months on 2 years at a time is probably, I don't want to do that. But I also think that, well, one, the more stressed you feel and the more that comes with responsibility and deadlines and all that kind of stuff. And we're doing something that no one else is doing. So of course it's going to come with a sense of pressure. But I wonder if there's a timeline to say, hey, I'm feeling stressed. And you go, okay, today's the 7th of July. If you're still feeling that in 3 months' time, then or 2 months' time, then that's when we have to look at changing processes, because that is not so. Because do you know what I mean? I wonder if that is something to be conscious of, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would like us to put more things in the calendar down the line of, okay, hey, let's check in with how was that problem. This podcast is a good way for us to kind of keep track of this, because it forces us to get in a room and talk, each week about this stuff. We could pretty easily put in, a month from now to 3 months, whatever, put something in the calendar from today's date and go, how are you feeling about this? Just doing more regular check-ins with purpose.
Yep.
But I think we would, particularly for stress levels, we would know well before like 2 or 3 months. Are you still at that point? Because I'd be depressed, it would be bad. And similar for you, if it was you going through the stress or the burnout or whatever, like I think we would know for that.
Yep. I think if it's temporary, we know, it's temporary. I can see when this would be relieved.
Yeah.
When we get to this date, I can see that's only existing because of a time period. But if it's there, like, I think there's a different stress of, say, we didn't get on anymore and we were in conflict about the direction of the business, or we had a bad employee or something that wasn't bound by a time frame and it wasn't going away. I think that is something that's probably a good skin to look over something. If anyone is listening has any frameworks or can point us in the direction of anything to do with this, we'd really appreciate it if you could either reach out to us on LinkedIn or Blue Sky for Mitch, or send us an email at journey@SixSides, because I don't think we're reinventing the wheel here. I think it's probably it's actually a common, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, overall, I'm still extremely positive about all of this. It's just, okay, it's a bit of hard work to get through at the moment. So
gotcha. Yeah,
we will get there.
Okay.
So anyway, on the Slack Connect stuff, now to kind of just go back just for 1 minute, it went really well with the team at Laravel Live Denmark. So that's who we had in mind last week when we were about to send them an invite. Went really well, even before we got it. So we sent it like a few hours before we were to get on a call with them. And I wrote to them, like, as soon as they accepted the invite into the channel, I wrote to them, like, I'll explain why we want to do this on the call. We're just having a shared space so we can, get out of email, basically. And they were like, don't even worry about it. We love it. We use Slack all the time. This is fantastic. Like they were all in instantly. So that was really nice to see. Okay, with a certain crowd, at least a certain type of customer, this is probably going to be right up their alley. We haven't yet done this, even sent an invite for one of our other customers in a totally different non-development sector. I agree with what you said last week. Well, they're probably using Teams or something else, right?
Yeah.
So it probably won't be a good option for them. But anyway, we could try. The next time we have a call with them, it might be a good option to bring up, because who knows? Maybe they are using Slack. So.
Yeah, I'm just having a look if there's a platform to connect our team's platform to bring in Slack. And
otherwise,
Teams.
like we might have to get set up with Teams or something like that, because it effectively is like for See, I'm with you. I also don't use Teams, but maybe it's something that we have to do if this is a channel that we want to pursue, is offering support or creating a closer bond with these customers. Like, who knows? It might be something that we need to look at. But anyway, it's just like one tiny little fraction of our approach. So it's not the end of the world. But to try and give some follow-up, anyone that listened last week, it went really well. So if you're out there and you're running your own business and it happens to kind of be like this and you've got customers, like maybe it's something that you could consider setting up. Because as long as you're on the paid plan and so is your other like partner, then this is a free thing. It's not like you pay extra to connect between two Slacks. So worth looking at.
Yep. So there's a platform I can see called Mio, MIO.io, and it connects Google and Microsoft Teams and Slack and Google and all that kind of stuff. Zoom. Yeah. So it looks like it might. Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. Maybe we'll look at that over the next month or so, in preparation to reach out to that other customer of ours.
Sure.
Anyway, cool. So we've got a couple more things on the list. So 6 weeks of SEO titles. This is the last one.
Yep.
The last one for now. We'll see. So when we kicked all of this off, I believe it was episode 13. So you've actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be the 7th episode, I'm pretty sure, that has a SEO type title. So I gave you a freebie here. It has gone pretty well. Like the podcast numbers have grown, which is fantastic. We almost doubled. I held true. I didn't release the episode in June. I waited until July because we release our episodes on Tuesdays and that's it. You won't get me to change that. It is going well. Look, again, if you're out there, maybe this is the big feedback episode. If you're out there, let us know if you found us because of one of the titles in one of the recent episodes, or maybe you're more willing to share it with friends if you've been a listener since right at the start. Like, we would love some feedback. So if you're listening to this and you have the capability to send us an email, do that, because then Gavin and I will both get that instantly. That would be really good. So we will do another SEO title on this one. And then you next week are recording with, do you want to reveal who you're recording with?
Yeah, so I'm going to record with Roman Galikoff. He's the founder of Record Advisory. He's an accountancy firm for startups. And he's going to talk about, the options with bootstrapping over funding, some first principles, accounting principles, and just give some general advice about what we should be considering at this stage of our business, right? Tracking customer acquisition costs, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Roman's a good friend of mine. We've been mates for a long time. He's a really, really funny man. Again,
I hope he brings it next week. You put him on a pedestal.
Yeah. He's got an interesting backstory too. So hopefully he'll share that. He might not want to. So I will just spring it on him.
See how we go.
But yeah, and to be honest with this SEO, Mitch, I don't know why we would go back.
Well, you don't, because this was your idea, right? But I like the more loosey-goosiness of it, hey.
I think you're just a bad loser, Mitch. Like, okay.
Bad loser. Okay,
we're a team here. No.
So anyway, where I was going with next week is you will then I think you're going to get 8 episodes that you will have complete creative control over the titles for. So maybe from episode 21, I might take it back for a little, and let's see if the numbers drop off or if they continue. We're going to run the experiment. I'm not doing any cover art for this period, so that way we're not skewing the results there with trying to change 2 variables at once.
Oh yeah.
But maybe I'll pick that back up in 5-10 episodes from now. Might start playing with that. So yeah, anyway, we're having fun. It is working. And let us know if you found us through one of these SEO titles or what you think of the titles. If you think they're stupid, then let us know.
Fair enough.
Cool. All right, that's that one. So let's talk about the blog. So you are our head of sales and marketing, and you came to me last week, I think it was, and you asked me about getting set up with the blog. So do you want to walk us through how all that went?
Mate, that was a shitty process, I'll be honest with you. You were like, yeah, no worries, download this command, download whatever it was. I don't even know what you told me to do. You told me to download Herd,
You
some
blocked
other
it from your memory. Yeah.
No, I'm going to go look at it because it was horrendous. For what is second nature to you and gets, it's not second nature for other people who aren't familiar. Yeah, GitHub desktop and then Herd. It was overwhelming to say the least. And then you were like, just go into there, that command, and hit this, and then you can write in there. And I was like, this is not something that could work. It was too hard. It was overwhelming, and blogs are supposed to be easy, and it was not. But we found a good solution. Yeah.
Yes. So there was a lot of setup. Where we got it to was that you needed to make a new markdown file. For those in the know, where writing the marketing website is written with Next.js, and it's got this ability to do blog articles via markdown files. So we got it to a point where I thought it should be easy enough after having done all the setup, where you needed to create a new markdown file and then start typing in that. And you had to run a command, to run Next.js, right? And that pretty quickly, you were like, dude, I'm so overwhelmed. This is way too much. This is going to be too hard. And I get it. Like, I totally get it. It sucks. I've had to work on sites that, other people have written, and you're dealing with like really complex files and all this sort of stuff. That's just like, oh my God, just give me like an easy way to make this work. So I get it. So we went looking for a solution, and I found one, and it is called Tina.io. Tina.io. It's actually, as far as I could tell, it's an Australian team, which is pretty cool. So it's this CMS platform that lets you write blog articles or pages or whatever. It's one of these like headless editor platforms where it plugs into your website. So I then had to spend, and I did it same day, like right after we had this disaster of a call that the blog articles weren't working. I then went searching, and I found Tina, and I was like, okay, right, this is it. Let's get it set up. So I got it set up, and it took a couple of hours because some of the stuff was pretty new to me with the way that they wanted you to integrate it. Anyway, we got it working, and now you can go in and use a nice visual editor to type in articles and make changes, add photos, whatever. It all works, as far as we can tell, really well. So you're still waiting on me to make that actually live. We're not using it yet on our production, like www.SixSides.co. We're not using it there yet, but I don't think you're in that big of a rush to write blog articles anyway. It's just like this would be great to have when the time comes. So, but I've got it now. I think you can write them on the staging site. I'm pretty sure that's up and running. That's what I showed you when we got back on the phone. We got back on a call after a few hours. So I was probably a little tense that day. But anyway, we got it there. So.
Yep. Yeah. It's I'm just looking at it now. Completely forgot how to use it, so we'll have to figure out how to
We might have
Yeah,
to have another call,
but there's no
record a
rush.
video or something.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'll actually write the article, then we'll put it up there. So we'll do that first. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, thanks for
sure.
that. Like, it was a lot more intuitive, and
It's
yeah,
night and day, 100%. So it will lead to a way better editing experience for both of us, plus anyone else that happens to come in and work on it in the future. So I agree, this probably needed to happen. I just wasn't necessarily ready for it to happen yet, but it's done now,
yep,
and I think we'll be all the better for it. So
yep. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
cool. Well, we've got a couple more topics left. We'll talk through a little bit more about TestFlight and maybe on the dashboard to round things out. But you've got here lean startups. Did you want to walk through that?
Yeah, I've just started listening to the lean startup again. So when I first started working in a startup a long time ago, 2015, my founder was saying, "Oh, read all these startup books or listen to these startup books," because I listen to Audible. And it just wasn't the right thing for me to do at the time because my job was sales and I had to be in a sales capacity, think about that stuff. But now that we're going down this path, not only are we working in the business, like you're doing dev and obviously I'm doing sales and all that kind of stuff, I think there's a part of it that is working on the business. So listening to that book, they were talking about, ship an MVP, make mistakes, and we can't do that. Obviously, we can't do that. Our market would not allow us to do that.
Yeah.
But how do we not stifle innovation and make sure we're financially responsible and we're not wasting money? I think is really conscious, is a really something to be conscious of. And yeah, and so what I was thinking, do you listen to audiobooks or anything like that?
I haven't listened to any audiobooks, and I also haven't read any like actual books in
Okay,
years. So I'm kind of divorced from the whole book scene.
sure.
I listen to a lot of podcasts though.
Okay,
So
okay,
there's potential for some overlap there, but no.
sure.
No books.
So something that my wife and I did when we were thinking about getting married and we were planning on getting married, we could see this was a longer term relationship, like we were going to be together, is that we started listening to couples marriage books, like marriage counseling and relationship books. And so what we would do is we would listen to a chapter each, and then we would review the chapter and see how it applied to us.
Okay.
So maybe because it won't necessarily make sense because I'm only one half of the business if I go and listen to a book and then go, "Oh, Mitch, that was great," and you're like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe it could be something that we look at is we just listen to like we figure out what a book is, like what book to listen to, or we do that, and then, or a podcast, whatever, and then listen to it and then review and talk to each other about what each of us took away from
Sure.
the from that chapter and how it might apply to us, right? Because we are a team at the end of the day. Yeah.
I like it. That sounds
Yep.
fun. As
Yep.
long as like the topic or the subject is good. I'm
Yeah.
sure it would
Yep.
be. You wouldn't recommend me to listen to anything garbage, right? But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, that sounds fun. It sounds like a book club type of vibe, but
Yeah,
it's
we
like
can
a startup club. It's our business club. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Look, and I think because if we don't, like, I can see what'll happen. If we don't, I'll end up listening to this stuff and what I implement. Then you won't know what I'm talking about. Then we might have different points of view or won't understand the context behind it, and then we'll be misaligned or something. And I just want to be aligned. Even if you don't
Sure.
want to, you go, "Hey, I don't want to do that." You implement it and go, "Okay, that's fine." At least you know the why behind it or the context, right? And
Yeah.
I try to learn something from every book, whether it's good or bad. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm about to be on a plane to Bali and then back. I mean, that's like what, 5-6 hours each way, something like that. So I will have some time and there'll be downtime while I'm on the holiday. So
Sure.
if there's something that you want me to listen to, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll talk about that and we'll come back. Maybe
Yeah.
keep that updated as we go, and
All right.
hopefully
I'll
we
put it
can
in
get a list of books to review over time. Right. So
book club. All right. We'll put that
Yep.
in for 2 weeks from now. See how we went.
I'm going to check the Oprah list, see what she has.
Yeah, sure. We'll read The Color Purple or something. That would be
Yep.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Okay, sweet. Is that everything then on it's the Lean Startup, is it?
The
Is
lean
that
start. Yep.
that's a podcast?
No, it's a
Right.
book. It's a book.
It's a book. Oh,
Yep.
man. Okay. All right.
Oh man, you're already saying, oh man.
No, just like I thought that you had said earlier that it was a podcast, but
I'm sure there is a podcast on it, but no, it's it's a lean startup by Eric Rise.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, cool. No worries. Well, I guess final kind of things to round out. So we do have the dashboard now. It's gone really well. It's a Laravel and Vue JS web app. We're doing some fun stuff or some interesting stuff that I hadn't done before, where we're hosting it on 2 different regions at the moment. So in Sydney and in Frankfurt on AWS. And we're using a Cloudflare worker to sit in front of that and kind of act like a load balancer. So it picks up like, oh, okay, you're closer to the Sydney region. Therefore, I'm going to route your request over to the Sydney one. And it's not just like a standard load balancer like you might have used.
What's a load balancer, mate?
A load balancer is where it's a server that receives web requests. So like when you go in the browser, you go to a website or whatever, receives that request and then decides, okay, where do I send this to? So it then needs to send it to another server to go and process it. So maybe some other server in Sydney or somewhere in America or whatever. And its job is to try and pick like, okay, which server is best positioned to accept this request. That's the way that we're handling it, where it's all based on your location. But there are other things that you can do, like, okay, to prevent any one of those, you might have 5 other servers in different places or whatever. To prevent any one of them from getting overloaded, you might say, okay, just randomly pick out of the 5 services that you've got, just go pick a random one and then send it there, regardless of how far away that is. So there's like all these different strategies that you can do. There's round robin and all sorts. So there's a lot of different things you can do with load balancers, but we have kind of written our own using Cloudflare workers, and we're routing traffic from anywhere in the world to one of these 2 regions on AWS at the moment. And we fully expect to add more regions over time as we get more customers in other parts of the world. And this was my first time using something called mutual TLS, which is like a way to have a private connection between Cloudflare and AWS. That's what we're using it for. So if you found the right URL, the right web address for our Sydney dashboard, for example, you wouldn't be able to visit it. You can only visit it through this Cloudflare load balancer. And that's something that I'd never done before. Chris, I don't think, had seen that before. He certainly didn't know how to set it up. So that was fun. And it works really well. So now we've got this secure dashboard. The only way you can get in is through Cloudflare. We're using WorkOS, so you got to be logged in, and it's really fast. So it's cool. Something that is interesting though is like we can't really test the latency of the Europe system, right?
Okay.
Because we're all the way over here, and if it's running really slowly, that's hard for us to see for ourselves, right? Because it's just, of course it's slow. It's on the other side of the world. It's going to take like a second or 2 to get anything back. So what we might have to do is lean on the guys at Laravel Live Denmark to help us do some testing of the system prior, and make sure that everything is up and running as quickly as at least Rasmus on that team knows that it was when he was here for Laracon Australia last year. So that's like a challenge that I've never had to deal with before, because I've always been close to whatever it was that I'm hosting, right? I can tell if it's slow. So there's a challenge there.
So where does that sit in relation to, if you're storing data here and then overseas, where does that sit in relation to data privacy laws and all that kind of stuff?
So so as far as the data sovereignty, it is tricky to, we have to try and thread the needle carefully to just store the relevant information in each part of the world, right? So with Cloudflare, they kind of have region Earth, they call it, where all their stuff is kind of shared all over the globe. That kind of makes it a little trickier to do some of this stuff of only store certain bits of information in a certain country. It might be a bridge that we have to figure out how to cross if we get some very sensitive customers, like government customers, things like that.
Yep.
We might have to figure that out a bit more. But right now, like the vast majority of the data that is being held for any events that we run will be held inside of that region only.
Sure.
And then it's just like, okay, ways for people to get into the app, which needs to be stored globally. So a list of users, and that's things like, you know, emails and passwords and names and stuff like that. That all gets replicated globally because I need you to be able to log in quickly from anywhere in the world, right?
Sure.
So it's that kind of like high level stuff that's going to go everywhere, and I don't really see a good way around it. You want to be able to go overseas and still be able to access your app, even though your account might belong in the Sydney data center or whatever. It's like, no, you're still our user. You should be able to access it everywhere, regardless of what events you're going to.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So
yeah.
is there like platforms around that if you say, hey, I've got to adhere to the Australian data sovereignty laws, but I'm also operating it overseas, that it can actually tell you if you are or you aren't compliant, or you just have to?
There might be. I'm sure there are like auditors out there that will help with that stuff, but we are not in a position to afford anyone that calls himself an auditor.
No, I mean automation. I mean a software that can just let you know. But
maybe. To be honest, it's never something that I've had to deal with before because I've only deployed stuff to the one region. It's always been in Australia, so that's been taken care of for me, right? So, yeah, the last time I put anything overseas was like 12 years ago. I had a server in Japan running on Linode because that was the closest one to Sydney at the time. So that was a long time ago, right? So, yeah, it's not something that I've had to deal with, nor has Chris through asking him about some of this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got any thoughts and you happen to be out there listening, let us know. But for now, this is what we're doing. Seems to be working well. And once we run this TestFlight version of the app, which will hopefully go out today, once we run that past the guys over in Denmark, we can see if they come back and say, this is really fast, or no, it's really slow, and then we've got something wrong, you know? So, anyway, we will see. So, mate, why don't we wrap up now? We've been going for an hour. So where can people find you online?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Gavin Ty. That's easy enough to find.
Excellent. It'll be in the show notes. I'm Mitch Dav everywhere. I won't see you next week, but you'll see Gavin with Roman, and I'll be in Bali. So bring that on.
Awesome, mate. Look forward to seeing you with your tan.
yeah. You'll be waiting a while, I think. It'll be sunburn. I'm sure I'll have sunburn. I doubt I'll have a tan. So.
I've seen your blue legs, mate. So you definitely need some
blue legs. They're very wide. I don't know about blue. That's
wide,
a bit
wide blue.
Yeah, sure. All right, cool. We will. I'll catch you all in 2 weeks. Gav will catch you next week. Thanks.
All right. See you, mate.
Bye.